At my sister's wedding, a security guard stopped me at the door, saying coldly, "Your name isn't on the list." I saw my mother and sister watching and laughing from a distance, but I stayed quiet and walked away. The next day, they showed up in tears, begging for help in a way I never could have imagined. Can you truly imagine being deliberately humiliated, publicly shamed by your own flesh and blood, your mother and sister, live on social media, all for fleeting likes? That's precisely what happened to me on what was supposed to be my sister's joyous wedding day. And what transpired next? Well, let's just say karma, in its own intricate wisdom, has a remarkably compelling way of delivering comeuppances. For years, my life unfolded with a quiet, profound fulfillment. While my mother, Patricia, and my sister, Caitlin, reveled in the opulent mansion my father had left behind in Westchester, all glittering glitz and superficial glamour, I chose a different path. I resided in my high-rise, a modest but elegant space, graced with an unparalleled view of Central Park. My days were meticulously packed, leading the research and development department at a pharmaceutical company. My current mission, overseeing a $100 million project dedicated to developing a groundbreaking new cancer drug, a collaborative endeavor with powerhouses like the Mayo Clinic and Johns Hopkins. This was serious, life-altering work. And on weekends, I found solace, a deep, restorative comfort, volunteering at St. Mary's Senior Center, simply sharing quiet conversations with the residents whose wisdom I cherished. But then, an unsettling shift began. My sister, Caitlin, erupted onto the social media scene. Her account, Caitlin Luxury Life, became ubiquitous. Images of Hermes bags, Michelin star meals, and private jets dominated feeds. She posted daily, and her follower count skyrocketed, soaring past 1 million. Whispers claimed her ad revenue alone neared $500,000 annually. With her flawless hair, impeccable makeup, and designer everything, she became an aspirational figure for countless young women. My mother, shrewdly, leveraged this newfound fame, using Caitlin's social currency to solidify her own position in New York society, adding to the million-plus she already commanded from my late father's estate. Charitable galas, prestigious board memberships. You can surely picture the tableau. That's when the subtle harassment against me began. Social media attacks, insidious rumors designed to tarnish my reputation, comments like, "How can someone from such a wealthy family live such a plain life?" Or, "This sister is a family embarrassment," peppered Caitlin's posts. I simply chose to ignore it, to endure it with quiet dignity. I believed, fundamentally, in forging my own path through merit, not inherited fame. That was my unwavering truth. Then came the grand announcement. Caitlin was engaged to James Harrison, an investor from a seriously prominent Boston family. His father, a titan in the banking world, was practically royalty, connected to every power player in politics and finance. He was, to my sister, the perfect match, meticulously conscious of his social standing. The wedding plans surged into overdrive. 400 guests at the iconic Plaza Hotel. Rumors swirled about a budget exceeding $500,000. VIPs, society's elite, a custom cake, Dom Perignon, multi-course meals. Every single detail was meticulously crafted to scream unadulterated luxury and status. Yet, here's the bewildering part. I never received an invitation. When I delicately inquired with my mother, she merely brushed me off with a dismissive wave. "Oh, you must be so busy, dear, with your drug development. You've got your hands full." Her words stung, but I tried, truly tried, to be understanding. I told myself, this is Caitlin's special day. Don't make it about you. So, on that sweltering summer morning, despite everything, I prepared myself. I selected a modest but elegant navy Ralph Lauren dress and my simple Tiffany necklace. My makeup was subtle, carefully applied. I even styled my black hair into a sophisticated updo, gazing at my reflection in the mirror, attempting to push away the encroaching doubts. I genuinely wanted to celebrate my sister. Outside, Central Park pulsed with life, joggers, the gentle sway of trees. A normal day, or so I desperately hoped. I arrived at the Plaza Hotel at precisely 11 a.m. The entrance was a dazzling parade of luxury cars. Bentleys, Rolls-Royces, Maybachs, attended by white-gloved staff everywhere. My Lexus felt, well, a little out of place, to be honest. But the valet, bless his kind soul, simply smiled and said, "Have a wonderful time, Miss Walker." I nodded, stepping through the heavy revolving doors into a world of sparkling opulence. Crystal chandeliers, Italian marble, lavish floral arrangements, white calla lilies, pink roses, all subtly scented with lavender. It was like stepping into a fairy tale. In a lobby, I even encountered Dr. Johnson from the Mayo Clinic and Professor Martin from Memorial Sloan Kettering. These are individuals who genuinely value my work. We immediately fell into conversation about clinical trial data, the new anti-cancer drug. "Elizabeth, it's your sister's big day," Dr. Johnson remarked. "What a wonderful venue." I smiled. "Yes, I truly wish her happiness. And by the way, the new drug trial data is showing excellent results. FDA approval should be close." Professor Martin added, "Your research will save so many patients." We chatted, heading toward the reception hall, past society luminaries in Chanel tweed and Hermes Birkins, catching snippets of conversation about the $500,000 budget, 18th century tapestries, antique vases brimming with fresh Casablanca lilies. Then I stopped. Directly in front of the venue doors, a security guard in a crisp black suit stood, holding an iPad. My heart began to pound with an unfamiliar dread. I approached him, noting the gleaming gold name tag. Plaza Security. "Your name?" "Elizabeth Walker," he asked. He scrolled, then frowned. My heart was practically leaping from my chest. "I'm sorry," he stated, his voice chillingly cold, "but your name is not on the list." Those words, they felt like an ice pick plunge directly into my heart. The air around me suddenly dropped to freezing. "Please," I stammered, my voice trembling. "Check again." "Elizabeth Walker. I'm the bride's sister." He checked once more, shaking his head, his expression utterly emotionless. "I'm sorry, but you'll have to leave." Just then, I heard laughter from a distance. I turned, and there they were. My mother, resplendent in a pristine white Chanel suit, her Cartier necklace glinting, and my sister, radiant in her Vera Wang gown, diamond tiara sparkling. She held her iPhone, pointing the camera directly at me, live streaming. I saw it all. Comments flooding the screen, heart emojis, "Best drama ever, serves big sis, right?" Mother and Caitlin exchanged triumphant smiles, their eyes glinting with malicious pleasure. The guests around me looked confused. Some even looked away, clearly embarrassed for me. In that shattering moment, it all clicked. The missing invitation, my mother's dismissive words. Everything. It wasn't a mistake. It was planned. All of it. A meticulously orchestrated setup for this very scene, for their twisted show. I quietly turned on my heel, walking back through that opulent lobby. I felt the concerned glances from acquaintances, but I just kept walking, one foot in front of the other. Dr. Johnson called out to me, but I merely offered a faint, strained smile and didn't stop. When the valet brought my car, even he looked apologetic, his earlier bright smile completely gone. "Take care," he said softly. I nodded, got into my car. The Plaza Hotel, in my rearview mirror, grew smaller and smaller beneath that cloudless blue sky. I drove in silence, the towering high-rises of New York feeling colder, more impersonal than usual. My phone kept lighting up, notifications from Caitlin's live stream. Thousands were watching. I turned off all notifications, shoved the phone into my bag, and with a deep, shaky sigh, headed home through the city's ceaseless bustle. But out there, a storm was already brewing. The hashtag Walker family scandal went viral, exploding across the internet. Angry comments poured in. The video had been shared with James Harrison's family. The Harrisons, a venerable Boston dynasty, were furious. Industry VIPs, many of whom were still at the wedding, began raising protests. Inquiries flooded in from the Mayo Clinic, from Johns Hopkins. My projects, my research partners were all suddenly under scrutiny. Back in the Plaza's grand ballroom, more than half the guests had already started leaving, their luxury heels clicking a dissonant echo on the Italian marble. My phone was buzzing with concerned messages from industry contacts, but it remained off. I simply sat in my Manhattan home, quietly sipping tea, gazing at Central Park outside my window, a surreal calm washing over me. Then, just as I expected, the news arrived. James Harrison announced the cancellation of the ceremony. "I cannot marry into such a family," he declared, his calm, resonant voice echoing through the venue. "I am terminating the engagement." My sister let out a hysterical scream. My mother, in a dramatic flourish, fainted, her pearl necklace scattering across the marble floor. The place descended into pure chaos. Media personnel were everywhere, a frenzied scrum. By evening, my apartment's intercom began to ring incessantly. On the monitor, I saw them. My mother and Caitlin, their faces tear-stained, streaked with smudged makeup. My mother's pristine Chanel suit was wrinkled and stained. Caitlin's magnificent wedding dress hem was soiled with mud. "Elizabeth, help us!" My mother's voice trembled, raw with desperation. They were prostrating themselves at my front door, those once coveted luxury brands now looking utterly pathetic. "Please open up. We'll explain. We'll apologize." Caitlin's voice was strained, broken. Her social media stream had mercifully stopped, but I could still see critical comments scrolling relentlessly on her phone. Her follower count was plummeting, a digital freefall. Contract termination notices from advertising sponsors were already flooding in. I just sat there, took another slow sip of my tea. Outside, the sun was setting, painting Manhattan's skyscrapers in hues of fiery orange. The intercom continued its insistent ringing. "Open up, please. Our reputation can't take any more." Their screams grew more desperate, more piercing. The social media backlash wasn't slowing. It was accelerating, a relentless tide. Major Western media outlets were now picking up the story. I stood up, walked to the window. In Central Park, the normal evening scene unfolded. Joggers, families, students. That ordinary, beautiful sight just made this whole situation feel even more surreal, a bizarre juxtaposition. The crying and screaming at my door continued. Other residents were peering suspiciously at my mother and sister. Security guards were politely but firmly telling them to leave. My phone rang again. "Mother," and over 100 unread messages, media interview requests. Then something truly unexpected happened. The Plaza Hotel security camera footage. It leaked. The video of me being denied entry, of my mother and sister laughing and filming it, went instantly viral. A new wave of public outrage, fierce and undeniable. My sister's followers vanished. Over 1 million down to under 100,000 in just 24 hours. And it wasn't just followers. People began digging into her past posts. Was that Hermes bag a replica? Did you even eat at those luxury restaurants, or just photograph the entrance? Were those private jet photos actually studio shots? The truth, once unearthed, was damning. Most of her posts were carefully staged fabrications. Borrowed items, fake restaurant visits, digitally edited travel photos. And the final, sickening reveal, their treatment of me at the wedding was not a spontaneous act, but planned harassment. "I wanted to create the best drama," Caitlin confessed, "to get the highest viewer numbers, trampling family bonds for likes and ad revenue." The criticism was deafening, a roar of collective disgust. My employer, Metap Farm, was of course flooded with inquiries. But their response was swift and absolute. "Our VP, Elizabeth Walker's achievements in R&D are unshakable. Family issues and her professional capabilities are entirely separate matters." My CEO's statement gathered immense support. In fact, this whole incident only served to deepen the appreciation for my work. My joint research with Mayo Clinic and Johns Hopkins continued smoothly. "Elizabeth's research will bring hope to many cancer patients," Professor Martin reiterated, his words amplified and shared throughout the medical community. The new drug's clinical trial data remained excellent. FDA approval was just around the corner. Meanwhile, my mother and sister's situation continued its downward spiral. The large mansion in Westchester had to be sold to cover damages and mounting debts. They were completely excluded from society. Their entire foundation crumbled. They had no choice but to move to a small apartment in the suburbs. How did it come to this? My mother's lament echoed, surely in that tiny space. All their luxury bags, their designer clothes, were auctioned off. Most of their savings were gone, swallowed by damage payments. Only regret remained. And the Harrison family. They filed a massive damages claim. The $500,000 for the wedding, plus another $1 million for damage to their social credibility. The price for damaging our family's honor will not be small, James's father, the investment bank chairman, stated publicly. Major U.S. media, even the Wall Street Journal, covered it on the front page. My mother's world was shattered, too. Expulsion from the New York Charity Association. Other organizations demanding to sever ties. I never want to hear the name Patricia Walker again, society's leaders declared. That $1 million annual income from my father's estate, disappearing fast after the bank managing their assets terminated their contract. Amidst all this, a letter arrived in my mailbox. An apology from Mother and Caitlin. The stationery was visibly stained with tears. They finally acknowledged their mistakes. We didn't understand your sincerity. We were drowning in vanity and pride, losing sight of what was important. But my mind, it was unequivocally made up. While I could forgive them, a return to our old relationship was impossible. The past cannot be changed. We each had to choose new paths. Please do not contact me again, was all I wrote in my reply. A year has passed. The sunlight streaming through the windows at St. Mary's Senior Center is gentle, warm. I was walking down the hallway after finishing my weekend volunteering. Elizabeth, thank you for coming again today. An elderly woman in her 80s smiled. From her wheelchair, her eyes crinkling kindly. Those conversations still warm my heart. My volunteer work has grown so much. I'm now a director of an NPO supporting the elderly. And at Metap Farm, my promotion to vice president was confirmed. Our drug development exceeded all expectations, receiving FDA approval, bringing new hope to so many cancer patients. Vice President Walker's leadership is outstanding. Her integrity was the key to success. My reputation is unshakable. Research results are published in prestigious medical journals. The Manhattan skyline remains as vibrant as ever. My mother and sister's lives, however, have been completely transformed. Their social media accounts are gone. They've lost their place in society entirely. They live quietly in a small suburban apartment now, just reminiscing about past glory. Once in a while, I receive a message from my mother. Just once, I like to meet and talk, she writes. But I don't reply. That was my choice. I decided to live looking forward, not imprisoned by the past. From my high-rise window, Central Park's autumn colors are breathtaking. In my life, filled with meaningful work and compassionate volunteering, I have no regrets. In fact, I truly feel that the events of that devastating wedding day, in their own harsh way, brought a new, deeper meaning to my existence. Living with sincerity, that's what truly matters most. I shared these very words at a Metap Farm Board meeting recently, looking out at the Manhattan skyscrapers under a cloudless blue sky. A new era, indeed. My once famous sister now reportedly works at a small accounting firm. My mother spends her days quietly knitting at home. Their luxurious lifestyle is a distant, almost forgotten memory. They live modestly. There are things more important than money and fame. We had to lose everything to realize that. That's what Caitlin wrote in her final letter to me, received just last month. Inside the envelope, a simple photo of them together. Gone were the luxury clothes, the heavy makeup, but their expressions. They showed a quiet, peaceful contentment that had been absent before. Sometimes I pass by the Plaza Hotel. The events of that day now feel almost like a vivid, unsettling dream. But for me, what matters most is that I've lived true to my beliefs. Manhattan's twilight wraps the city in its usual, mesmerizing beauty. Tomorrow will bring another new day. Perhaps that is the greatest gift for me. For me, who chose to live with integrity. So, I've told you my story. A story about family betrayal, and finding your own unwavering path. What would you have done in my shoes? How do you think you'd react to something like this? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk about it.